Moin boing there, hello ladies and gentlemen, Donspektor here with an IEM review. And today I have for you the CCZ Duet. And thank you very much, Keep High Five, for sending this over for review. As usual, they have not asked or influenced me in any way to say anything positive or negative about this IEM. And yes, all thoughts exactly are 100%ly how I found it. And yes, that's the packaging, looks like most other budget sets, and yeah, some basic information on the back. What I do like is this small attention to detail here, where you can just grab it like this and open it. This is nice, as a few other budget brands don't do this, and you have to shake it as hell in order to get it loose. So very nice attention to detail here. Beneath that, here we would have directly the IEM, beneath the plastic, and beneath that the accessories. And let's quickly tackle the accessories here. You do get the cable and you do get ear tips. And a few words for the ear tips here. Those are absolutely unique. I have never seen any ear tip that is similar in any other brand so far. So you can see here it's a slightly more ball shape with the M size here. And you have this ever so slight extrusion on the top here. And yeah, they are very smooth, pretty squishy, definitely on the thin side. And unfortunately, they don't really work well for me. They just slip out of my ears, but they are pretty comfortable. And yeah, if you like this squishy / smooth type, I guess this will probably be a nice tip for you. And yeah, so that's it, packaging accessories. For the price, I mean, it's exactly what you can expect, right? Nothing more, nothing less. IEM price this clocks in at about 30 bucks, give or take. If it is on sale, it's a bit cheaper. If it's not on sale, it's about 30 bucks. And then let's come to the cable here. And let me try to get the cable out here. And as my viewers might have realized when you see this cable here, well, very strongly reminds us of the blonde cable. The waving here or the twisting is very similar to the blonde cables. The color scheme is very similar to the blonde cables. The overall look and feel is very similar to blonde cables, and those were just not good. Thankfully, this is a bit better than the blonde cable. As you can see, if I just stretch it a bit, it stays smooth enough. And also the 90-degree connector here is, in my opinion, a bit better. Unfortunately, the strain release here is a bit too hard, doesn't release much strain. But it is nicely to grip, especially because, yeah, it's also not entirely just flat or just a round cylinder. It has some texture to it. And then the wire itself is, yeah, rather thin, and I generally do prefer the wires from something like the 02 or other budget IEMs a bit more. That's just two wires that are flat welded together, generally is a bit better usable overall. But this cable is not bad, and yeah, the other strain release here, splitter. Again, a bit too hard to actually release strain, but it keeps the style. And then on top here we have the two twisted wires together, with a chin slider that unfortunately doesn't stay in place at all. It's way too little friction, so it won't really work for the purpose it's built for. Yeah, but at least it's kind of managed. And then the wires on top here, and you can see directly what happened here. It tangled. And while the bottom is okay, like the top really, like, it constantly tangled in my backpack. It constantly tangled in carrying cases I put it in. And I'm really not a fan of the top part of the cable here. I'm not going to bother removing this tangleness here. It's like really, it was just twisted before, so like rotated around my hand and immediately tangled again. So not a fan of this. And also not a fan of these ear hooks. Like, this is a long ass rubberization. And even worse, check out the thickness of this rubber. Boy, is this thick. And that combined with the, again, very stiff rubber we're using here and a relatively small to medium small bending radius. Yeah, I struggle to get this cable comfortable around my ear. I can wear it for like 10-15 minutes and then it gets uncomfortable. Not because it's textured, like it's just ever so lightly textured, but because the pressure it applies here at the back of my ear is just a bit high. And if there's one thing I would recommend CCZ to fix about this cable, less rubber. Thinner rubber around here will definitively improve the overall comfort. Yeah, last thing about the cable, the connector here. This is a bit of an odd one. Let me show you here. So you can see it is made for something that looks like QDC, but it's not deep enough for QDC. It's like half QDC depth, I would say. So it will fit for this IEM, which I'll show you soon, but for no other IEM. It's a bit of an odd one, and I wish they would use normal QDC or just flush, because this cable is a bit weird for this, and yeah, the connector itself. And also the L&R is printed like directly in the plastic here, but it's not that well visible. But better than some other silver connectors they had, where I couldn't read shit on it. So overall, this cable is about one level better than the blonde cables, but about one level worse than other cheap IEMs I've looked at in the recent time, like the 02, for instance. So yeah, it's usable, right? But not better, not worse. And then we get the actual IEM here. And yes, sorry for the cable here. This is just another random cable I had lying around from the, I think, Kanta. Because I just couldn't bear this cable here, like it's just too thick for my ear. So I use this one for the majority of my listening because it's just the more comfortable cable for me. And yeah, let's check out the IEM. This is the IEM Build here, and you have this like, I think like aluminium faceplate or something. I think they said it's zinced or whatever. It does actually feel rather solid, and yeah, the IEM itself does also look unique enough. Like this is what similar what we have seen, for instance, at some cheap KZ IEMs here, the general structure and build. But because of this faceplate with its additional like contouring here, it does look unique. And yeah, it also, integration-wise, the faceplate is integrated well enough. I can feel the seam with my fingernail, but barely. So that's pretty good for the price. And yeah, integration-wise, also the 2-pin connector here. So you can see this is not exactly QDC. It is a bit extruded, but not much. But integration-wise, it seems to be well done. Like it didn't rock around. It seems to be solid in there. And yeah, for the price, there's no criticism. Before we come to the uniqueness, let's quickly tackle the nozzle here. Although this also is unique in itself. As you can see here, this nozzle uses a kind of cylinderish, not a cylinder, kind of cone-shaped design. So that means in your ear it's actually feeling thinner than it is. And it is not even thick to begin with. I think I've noticed, wait, let me quickly look up the measurements here. Yeah, 5mm behind here and 5.7mm at the widest outlet here. So it's actually rather thin, and due to this shaping here, it feels even thinner in your ear. So small spoiler for comfort here. And yeah, integration wise, as you can see, the glue in here looks well enough. I think this has again a light contouring as well going on the thing where it's glued in. So if I pull it or move it, nothing happens with this, which is better than some of the premium IEMs I've had here. And yeah, as last point, before we come to the rubber here, there's a pressure hole here directly on the ED. It's pretty damn small. And there's another pressure hole here at the back chamber. Not sure why we have this. I don't think it would be needed. And then the most unique part about this IEM, so you see this contouring here of the semi-custom shell. This is a rubber piece that they glued in here. First I expected this to be just, plastic coated with rubber. But judging from the looks that we can see inside the shell here, I assume it's more a rubber piece that they directly glued in here. And interesting enough for the price point, yeah, this looks like actually is pretty damn well glued in. Because you can see no seams around, and generally seems to be done well enough. Yeah. Oh, and last but not least, the front mesh here, as you can see, seems to be glued in well. There's no weird glue residues. It just stays how it is. And yeah, in summary, I think this is a pretty good build for this price point, and I don't really have much criticism here. Yeah. Next, then let's directly tackle comfort. And yeah, as already hinted before, I think this is a very comfortable IEM. The contouring here is definitely on the strong side. So if you have a really small ear, this might be a bit much for you. Or if you have a really big ear, this could potentially poke where you don't want it. But this would be fixable. Just use a longer tip and it should be no issue at all. Also, insertion depth wise, this is exactly the right compromise between like inserting but not too much or not too little. Let me quickly see my measurements. This inserts by nozzle length. This inserts by 5.7mm, and that means most tips should work with this. Shorter tips worked as well as the longer tips for me. And yeah, due to the thinner nozzle here, it's really comfortable and definitively an upgrade over what you get, for instance, with the 02. Nuo, similar comfortable, but honestly, I liked still this a bit more than Nuo overall. Although Nuo was also pretty good. And then, yeah, next we come to isolation. And yeah, as it is the case with most IEMs with at least a metal faceplate and a semi-contour, this is isolating rather well. I won't say it is good in this, like something like the Puller PaO2 insulates well or good. This one is above average, but if you get it to fit right within cut foam tip, for instance, I think this is more than enough for most situations. Only really if you are outside in the main road, where like really busy transport or busy public transport around you, this you definitely would need in foam tip. But with silicone tips, even in normal roads or in the office or anywhere, this should be absolutely fine. Definitely isolates above average here. And then next, drivability. Yeah, this clocks in at 16 ohms with 105 decibels. So on paper, it is rather efficient, and in practice, well, I have to be honest, even with the cheap Apple dongle, I think you get like 95% of what this is capable of. There isn't much scaling to be had at all. If you go for something like the BTR5 that has like, I think 240 milliwatts, well, this is giving you everything it can. It's maybe ever so slightly better in imaging, maybe the bass is a bit more impactful, but really it might be 5% only. And going to a desktop setup doesn't give you anything. It's already good as it is with a cheaper dongle. And now coming to the core part, sound. And yeah, again, general sound characteristics, throwing on measurements done with my IEC 711 coupler. And yeah, best I can describe this as a strongly V-shaped IEM, with its most unique feature being a double peak at 4.5 and 5K. According to coupler, there's a light channel imbalancing going on here, but honestly, I wasn't able to hear it in majority of my listening. And yeah, so I won't be talking about it. For the price, channel imbalance like this is okay. But yeah, let's go into the details. So first, treble. And yeah, usually, as usual, we start with the treble extension on top. So as you can see here, yeah, it does extend past 10K, which for a price point is already relatively good. And you can also see a like downward trend going from like 9K to all the way to here. I think it's like 17K with 3 peaks. To my ear, all of those peaks are not as strongly pronounced when the graph makes it. So I would say it's a bit closer to the Nuo than it would be, yeah, to other IEMs here. But there's some energy going on here. And yeah, that means you do get some splash and some sizzle and some air frequencies on top. But just don't expect that these peaks are as strongly pronounced in real life as the graph makes them. Comparison to, I think, the 0.2. Honestly, I think the 0.2 is a bit more resolving than this overall in the treble department. The Nuo is about on par. I think it might be a bit worse because, yeah, this is done by BA here, and BA usually is a bit more resolving in most DDs. But yeah, it's for price absolutely acceptable. And then mid-treble continues, as you can see by graph, relatively bright, but not too bright. So again, there's a big peak at 9K, and to my ear it also resolves at 9K. Although again, just saying by graph, to my ear it resolves like 3 decibels less than what you see here. So rather close to the Nuo overall. And then there's a dip that is basically exactly the same as with the Nuo, and yeah, this dip usually works for me rather well, and it's the case here. That means mid-treble comes forward as generally forward, I want to say. Yeah, also helped by the peaks, which we can tackle next. And I don't think yeah, the dip here is too much pronounced, at least to my ear, and I don't have any problems with it. It just sounded pretty decent. And yeah, now coming to the, I think, biggest deal breaker of this. So, as I said, the most unique thing about this is the double peak at 4.5 and 5K. I will have highlighted it in the video now. And I'm not entirely sure if I'm able to pick up both peaks individually. I think some people might be able to pick them apart, like the 4.5 and the 5K peak, but to my ear this more resolves like that there's a peak at 4.5K and no peak at 5K. So that means it's not as unpleasant as other IEMs that I have heard that have a 5K peak that is pronounced on the same level as this one here. But it still means it will come off as artificially in the lower/mid-treble transition here. And I'm pretty sure there will be a few people where this peak will be more audible at 5K. And that's why I said this might be the biggest deal breaker for some here. Because yes, the lower treble/upper mid peak here is a bit lower than the 5/4.5K peak. So yeah, I think this could be a deal breaker for some, but for me personally it wasn't. Like really, I perceived this peak being at 4.5K, and yeah, that's it. I don't perceive the other one as strongly as the graph makes it. And then yeah, lower treble/upper mids, I mean, you can see it by graph compared to the Nuo. Yeah, this is again pretty damn bright. It's about, I think, 3 decibels above the Nuo. Thankfully at again like 2.7, 2.8K with the highest peak. but this means it's coming off as rather bright here, and I'm pretty sure some people will find it a bit too much overall. Again, I will give you an example here, the Cyberpunk 2077 soundtrack, where the vocalist in Never Fade Away is a bit mishasped by mixing, where this one manages to give it a good clarity, but because it's so bright and it has this 4.5-5K peak later, it also sounds a bit, I want to say, like low in body. Other IEMs definitely have a bit more body in the vocals here. This one comes off as a bit thin overall for female vocals. And then coming to the mids, and I mean, what should I say here? Just going by graph, you can see this is a really reshaped IEM. And that means there's a lot of bass going on. And thankfully, I think the BA also plays parts of the mids here, my best guess at least. And that means the mids are actually not as drowned as I first expected when I saw the graph. Of course, again, let me stress, I always listen first before I give it a measurement. And there I was like, okay, this is a pretty intense bass, but the vocals are not as lost as I expected. And again, the tonality due to the high amount of bass here is not the best, and the technicality and separation also is not, but it's really not as bad as you might expect from the graph. And again, Chester from Linkin Park, yeah, it doesn't sound the most natural, but a bit off, but it's okay. Like, I can live with Linkin Park with this IEM without any issue. And then lower mids, I mean, you can see how much lower mid energy you have. If you like your lower mids to be really strongly pronounced and warm, this will be absolutely for you. And I can definitely see people who like some death metal, other metal, where growls are a thing. Yeah, this will be rather forward in terms of growls, and also bass guitars will be forward in that sense. And if you like this, this is definitely IEM for you. Not for me, but it might be for you. And then next we come to bass, and I mean, you can see how much bass there is. So you have a high amount of upper bass energy, high amount of mid bass energy, and then rise all the way to the sub bass. But you would be mistaken to think that the bass is really thundering strong. It's not. It's not bad bass at all, and it's definitely in stronger pronounced bass than the 02 or the Nuo. No questions here, but it just doesn't hit as hard as you expect with a bass shelf like this. Overall, it's not as fast as the 02, I would say, but it's absolutely acceptable for the price point. Like, really, I have heard worse IEMs for more money, a bit older ones, granted, but this is absolutely acceptable in terms of technicality for mid bass and yeah, also upper bass. Unfortunately, or like average, I want to say, is sub bass. My benchmark track, Interstellar's Mountains, there's a bass drop starting at 2 minutes 10 at like, I want to say 80-90 hertz, and it rolls all the way off to 20 hertz at like 2 minutes 16. This manages 2 minutes 14, which is exactly average. It's not worse, it's not better. But let me stress, at 2 minutes 14, there would be texture on the sub bass, like a light fluctuation. Good IEMs can present this. This one struggles with that, but you have energy at 2 minutes 14. So yeah, average, nothing more, nothing less. And then next we come to Soundstage, layering and imaging. And interestingly, for an IEM this bright, it actually has a pretty decent soundstage. Usually, if you have a bit less upper mid / lower treble energy, the soundstage can be perceived as more. I think this has a pretty good soundstage for its signature going on, or generally. And also the imaging is rock solid. Like, really, playing Sandstorm with this is absolutely no issue. And also I've been playing Dark Tide the last few weeks. Yeah, you can hear where all of the enemies come from without any problem. So really rock solid for the price point. And with its usually 3-layer layering, it's also totally fine. And really, I've nothing to complain yet at this price. Unfortunately though, separation, dynamic, and coherence is a bit of a different story. So again, let me quickly throw on the graph. Yeah, damn, this is very bleedy, and that's also how it sounds. So yeah, separation really is not a strong point of this, especially instrument lines tend to blend together with this one. The high amount of upper mid / lower treble can help separation occasionally, but it just doesn't do that great. I think it would work way better if they toned down the mid and upper bass by like at least 4 decibels to give it a bit more flat mids that really helps separation overall. And also dynamics honestly is really not such a strong point. Something like the Nuo definitely is more dynamic, and also something like the 02 is more dynamic than this one. But at least I wouldn't describe the dynamics as poor in quotes. It's below average but not bad. And yeah, coherence, I'm pretty sure if you if you're a sensitive person or have sensitive hearing, you can hear the BA playing there. But it's really, again, for the price, it's absolutely not bad. And something like the TK-ZK Wave that I had like 2 years ago was way worse of Fender in terms of BA timbre. This one here is fine in this sense. And that brings me to the verdict here. Competition at the $30 price point is pretty steep at the moment. I have referenced the Nuo and Zero 2 because those are, I think, 2 benchmarks at this price point. And my favorite here is definitely the Nuo. So I will also compare this to Nuo. And yeah, I mean, what should I say here? This one is definitely way more V-shaped than the Nuo, and thereby you really need to like a V-shaped IEM. More balanced, the Nuo absolutely is. There's no question there. Nuo is the way better overall tonality IEM here. And also, technicality-wise, they are pretty similar here. But not unfortunately, but a bit worse than Nuo is in terms of comfort. I think really this contouring and the usage of the nozzle here, again, let me show you the nozzle. Like, I think this worked really well, and this is a really comfortable IEM even for longer periods of time, if not for the cable. And even for a V-shaped IEM, honestly, if the cable would have been a bit better, I would say, okay, like I could see in maybe recommendation. But as it stands, as it is here, there's a bit too many things not right with this. So just as a constructive feedback here, a better cable and a bit less V-shape would make me recommend this IEM. Like really 3-4 decibels less upper bass energy and would be recommended. But as it stands, I just can't. The cable is not good enough. It's just too V-shaped to give it a recommendation. But if you like this V-shaped, I can see argument for this. As I said, it's comfortable, and yeah, the build actually is pretty decently, and also the tips are unique. So yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, recommendations, or criticisms, please leave a comment. Donspektor out.